Video review.
Mr. Kane, wake up. Mr. Kane.
What?
I need you to cover your head.
What did you say?
Just cover your head now!
Kane and Lynch Dead Men is an ugly, ugly game. That's not necessarily me talking just about the graphics. It's got a really ugly storyline with characters that are impossible to like, and it's a third-person shooter that has several gameplay flaws as well. Some really neat ideas are buried deep, deep in there, but you're going to have to do a whole lot of digging, more than you'll probably want to do in order to find them. The main thing in the game is its story mode, which you can play alone or in co-op mode with another player, though that player has to be local. There's no online co-op. You play as Kane, and in co-op you play as Kane and Lynch, who are two guys that are on death row. They get broken out, but before they can rejoice, it actually turns out that Lynch is in on the act, breaking Kane out so that he can reunite with this criminal organization called the Seven, who think he's a traitor, who want him to go out and get this money back because they think that he screwed him over and all this other stuff. The story gets really convoluted, and about halfway through it turns into a revenge saga, but it's impossible to care about anything that's going on in the story because every single character in the game is almost completely unlikable. There's no one to root for here, not even in like a cool anti-hero sort of way. You're just left with a bunch of really ugly characters that just become impossible to care about over time. The script certainly doesn't do it any favors. The dialogue's not particularly great, the voice acting's not bad, but really the problem is that every third word out of every character's mouth is the F word. It's not a big problem. The F word, it's great when properly used, but here it's just so done to death. The cutscenes are permeated with it. It just becomes a real crutch and really stands out as just kind of lazy. To give you some kind of indication of this, one of the guys, when responding to your squad commands, his response is just, "F you." It's just lazy. But it's not the story and the premise that are going to drive you away from Kane and Lynch Dead Men. The gameplay also has more than its share of flaws. It's a third-person shooter with cover mechanics and a squad tactic. It's pretty basic stuff. But the cover mechanic doesn't work well at all. You don't hit a button to get into cover or anything like that. You walk up to something, then you have to turn sideways and kind of turn back a little bit and keep turning sideways until eventually he sticks up against the wall. It's a real pain that you just kind of never use because it's such a hassle. The squad tactics are there, but they don't work very well because the artificial intelligence on both sides of the game is really pretty flawed. Your guys will just get gunned down over and over again if you send them out to do any kind of real dirty work. And the enemies aren't much better. They'll get stuck on cars and run in circles and do all kinds of dumb stuff. So that's not much fun either. The neatest idea that the game has to offer is its multiplayer mode, which is called Fragile Alliance. It's a really neat idea. Unfortunately, that idea plays out in the context of Kane and Lynch, so it has most of the same problems that the story mode has. How it works is up to 8 players can get in there and you're trying to rob a bank or steal some jewels or something like that. You're all on the same team. You go in, you start collecting loot, each player has loot, and there's a getaway car waiting for you. If you get away, you split the loot evenly with everyone else who escapes. But at any point, someone can try and keep all the money for themselves by turning traitor and shooting down one of the other players. At that point, all the other players want to kill that player, and any dead players respawn as cops, and they can try and take out the traitors or take out the whole heist themselves. It's a really clever idea because you never really know who's going to turn and win. Unfortunately, the shooting isn't very accurate or very much fun to pull off. And also the AI is in the exact same spots every time you play the map. So it's like, you know that these cops are going to be here, there's going to be 2 cops over the fence and all that. It just becomes really repetitive really, really quickly. That's really the overall problem with Kane and Lynch. It does have some really clever ideas here and there in very short bursts, but by and large, it's a fairly standard shooter that doesn't really have mechanics that live up to the standards of the genre. If you're a fan of shooters, you're probably just going to be frustrated by a lot of the things that this game does wrong. But that said, the multiplayer is really neat and something that's probably worth seeing. So if you do have an opportunity to see it without paying full price, take a look at it, but it's probably not worth it.